You know, everybody's wondering what's up in the skies. They're droning on about what we're seeing, and they're not sure, is it UFOs? Is it something else? Is it government? Is it monitoring all kinds of radioactivity? Who knows what's going on out there? But our guest is somebody who's commented about that. And it's been a while since we had Dr. Richard Roberts with us, American pharmaceutical executive, philanthropist, political activist group. Being a secular Jew, became more observant as time went on. He's involved in Republican policy. You know, he supports some Democrats, very active in the Lakewood Jewish community. And the reason why we invited you, Dr. Roberts, because those the Lakewood Alerts had a headline: Roberts, the drones are most likely aliens preparing to reveal themselves, which I know is not what you said, but somehow that was the headline. So welcome.
Thank you for having me, Zev. And your synopsis of who I am, that was pretty good.
So what's your position? I know you have a scientific background and head of a pharmaceutical company, and you were picked up by, they said, the Lakewood Alerts. So what do you think? And I know you have governmental contacts. What do you hear? What do you think? What do you believe is what we're seeing in the skies? Okay,
so first let me say that I think, in my opinion, the Lakewood Alerts slandered me by their headline, which is just false. And the things I wrote, they're in writing, they're on Twitter, or X, I should say now. It says, Dr. Rich Roberts, the drones are most likely aliens preparing to reveal themselves. Nope, sorry, not what I said. What I did was I took the facts as we know them, given what the government has told us. Now, those facts may well be wrong, but that's the facts the government has given us publicly. And then I went through the analyses, and I said that the explanation that most and best fits the facts for many reasons is that these are alien UFOs or UAPs. I also wrote, I just want to put this, if you don't mind, I also wrote, oops, sorry, just want to quote it. I wrote, I don't know if I'm correct, but I can't think of another scenario to fit these facts. I don't know that, so I was just deriving logically from the facts, and that would most likely would be UFOs. But what do I think it is? Number one, I agree with the admiral who is the spokesman for the I'm blanking out all of a sudden. Yeah, but for the intelligence community. And he says that over 90% of these sightings are just normal aircraft. And I agree with him. You know, on Shabbos night, Friday night, walking home from shul or synagogue, I looked up in the sky and I'm seeing all these different lights up there. And I'm thinking, I don't know what these things are. And I heard a rumble. And the rumble was actually getting louder and louder. And it was actually starting to like almost shake the ground. And I was getting a little concerned about this. And then I tried looking up. I mean, I'm on a lit street and I'm looking up in the dark sky, trying to shield to see it. And then it got close. It was a helicopter. So
wow. But a helicopter that was getting so close to the ground.
Yeah, yes. Now, why is it there? I mean, it could be there as part of the effort to search out what these drones are. But anyway, so I think the vast majority chance is that these are man-made aircraft. I have a contact in the military intelligence community who has told me about 2 weeks ago that these are U.S. Military craft. When I go through it, though, logically, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Like, why would the U.S. military? The U.S. military is not allowed to conduct operations on American territory unless you're talking about the a case of a national crisis and the National Guard is called out by the governor or the president. But outside of that, they're not allowed to conduct operations on U.S. territory. And could you imagine? You have to understand, for people in government, the number one priority for people in government is to protect their jobs. Can you imagine if one of these drones, which people say the size of an SUV, so let's say it's 1,000 pounds, 2,000 pounds, say one of these things has a mechanical failure, drops out of the air and kills somebody. People are going to lose their jobs over that. Departments could end up having budget cuts and retaliation and congressional investigations. They don't want that. So it doesn't make much sense to me that this is U.S. military craft. It being a foreign power, it being an Iranian craft coming from a mothership off of the coast. That does make a lot of sense. Congressman Chris Van Drew said that he was told that that's what it is, and he came out. The Pentagon said it's not true. He came out a few days later and said that the three Iranian boats that launch drones are all three docked in Iran, so it's not likely to be Iran. So it can't be Iran, but that would make sense. Iran is a nihilistic a belief system. They don't mind starting a war with the United States and ending up being destroyed themselves. They see things crumbling around them. The Iranian regime actually is under threat of being overthrown through internal revolution, just like what happened to Assad. And you can feel the hand of Israel and the Western powers working there. So you could see Iran trying to do this, but apparently, supposedly, it's not.
It could be China. Everybody, some experts say no matter if it's Iran, Russia, China is involved in whatever it might be if it's not the United States government drones.
So right, so so I don't know, but it's hard for me to imagine that Russia or China would also want to take that risk of having. I got to make up a number, a couple things. It doesn't matter if it's a 500-pound drone or a 3,000-pound drone. If it's falling from the sky and landing on people, the effect, heaven forbid, would be the same.
But China was not afraid. They had a balloon that was flying over part of our country for a while.
Right. One balloon flying across the country that everyone's tracking is a lot different than, tons of drones. What tons of means, I don't know, but many, many, many drones. That could have an instantaneous any one of them instantaneous mechanical failure and drop out of the sky. Balloons don't generally drop out of the sky so fast until we, finally shot it down after it crossed the entire country. I think there's more to that story. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But by the way, so making sense to me or making logical, being able to logically derive that it would be a chance doesn't affect what the reality is. The reality is the reality. I don't know what the truth is in this case. So, and if maybe we'll be told, maybe we won't. I don't know. I don't have the inside track. Like I said, my military contact told me that these are U.S. military drones.
Our guest is Lakewood philanthropist Dr. Richard Roberts. He had a pharmaceutical company. He was very involved in politics and hobnobs with lots of leaders, including mostly on the Republican side, but some Democrats as well. So is there unanimity of thought between Democrats and Republicans regarding what's going on? Or I know they all want answers. And you believe our government is holding back from giving the answers? I heard John Kirby say, well, most of it is regular people. It's, maybe some other stuff out there, but it's nothing alien. But people are concerned. And is our government doing enough to allay the fears of its citizens?
So when I blanked out before, the name I was looking for was Admiral John Kirby, spokesman for the National Security Council. So thank you. You pinged my memory. That's what I was trying to say. I think there is bipartisan support or unanimity on their desire to find out what is going on. But I have no inside track on what information is going to be given out or who's behind this. I don't know.
No, it certainly is interesting. Now, there have been other situations that leads the whole thing. They're trying to be, the government I'm referring to, trying to be more transparent about UFOs. And by the way, there's a crazy story, and I hope I have an opportunity one day to ask Donald Trump, but the head of Israel's space missions, you probably saw the story, said when President Trump was president the first time around, there was Intergalactic Federation of the United States, Israel, and some alien entity where they had some pact going. And I asked Danny Danone, the ambassador, is this person a kook because he was the head of the Israel science community? He said, no, he worked for him. So that story got only a small amount of play and then disappeared. I don't know if you followed that story, but I was intrigued by it.
Oh, yes. I'll give you some of the background because UFOs, almost certainly alien UFOs are almost certainly correct or true. It's not rational to think otherwise given the plethora of information we have now. So what you're speaking about is the former director of space defense for Israel came out and said that Israel and the United States were in communication with this intergalactic federation of alien beings and were cooperating with them. When he came out and said that, I thought he was a nut. And I used to think that everybody who was involved with UFOs are nuts, or most likely nuts, I should say. And clearly, a lot of the photographic evidence we have, over the decades is just photoshopped, from enthusiasts or nutty people. But it all changed in 2019. There were 2 or 3 videos that leaked to the New York Times that were published, and then the United States Navy, on their website, the United States Navy website, said these are authentic videos, and they are videos taken from the cockpits of U.S. fighter jets that are locking on, like they lock onto targets, enemy craft, locking onto 2 different objects that are and you hear the pilots freaking out, like, what is that? Look at that thing. It's not a balloon, because one of them, they say that it was traveling, the wind was 120 miles per hour in one direction, and this was traveling against the wind. And they saw this object actually change its axis. You can hear it's if you want to look up, it's called the gimbal video. I think GIMBLE. Look up gimbal UFO, a Navy, and you can see it. And the other one was another object. Again, the targeting system on the Navy jet had trouble locking onto it, so it was so fast. And you have the guy who's going to be, and then you've had all kinds of information come out since then. There have been multiple congressional hearings on this. You have high-level intelligence people have come forward and reported that these things are real. David Grush, who was a high-level intelligence guy, served in the military, very distinguished career, says that the United States is in possession of over a dozen of these UFO craft. Lou Alessandro, who used to run the UFO program for the Pentagon, has come out and testified before Congress that these, the amount of G-force that we have on us as we stand on the earth is 1 G. The amount of G-force that a human being can withstand, meaning if you're accelerating in a fighter craft, or you're like going in a turn and the force is pushing you, the most a human being can withstand is about 9 Gs to 10 Gs. The most our aircraft or fighter aircraft can take before the wings fall off is 19 Gs. These things are pulling 1,000 to 3,000 Gs. They're not even close to being human. So John Ratcliffe, who used to be the head of the National Security Council, he's now nominated to be head of the CIA. He said that our satellites track these things from outer space. They drop from 80,000 feet in outer space, or near outer space, to just right above the water in 1 second. They stop on a dime. So these things are real. There's no way that they're human, and Congress is hot on the trail. Anybody can look up the congressional hearings. They're there on YouTube or wherever else you want to look.
No, it's certainly fascinating. But what intrigues me about the story that I mentioned to you, and I know you were familiar with the story with the head of Israel's science agency and space agency, and he said there was a confederation between Israel and America and this other alien forces from outer space. Is that why only Israel and America? That's
right.
What intrigued me.
So here's my fantasy is one of these aircraft, one of these UFOs lands, the door of the flying saucer opens up, and out walks a chassid and says, "Where's the kiddush?"
Well, it makes sense, because if only Israel and America were involved in that confederation, even though, by the way, Louis Farrakhan, the known anti-Semite, he claims he was beamed up to one of these UFO ships, and then they beamed him back down. I'm surprised they didn't keep him up there, but that's a whole different story.
Yeah. He's a complete nut. He's a vicious anti-Semite, a bigot, and a nut. So I wouldn't believe anything he says.
Now, this might be a theological question, and I've heard this for years past, dealing, if there are aliens on other planets, some people may be challenged Judaic-wise, because here we think that the Jews are the center of the universe, and if there's alien life elsewhere, it may challenge some of the precepts we have. I don't know the answer. I just heard these discussions. I'm sure you probably heard of them as well.
I can answer that. So a significant Talmud Chacham, I asked him this question, and he looked it up. He said, Rav Aryeh Kaplan, and I'm not a Talmud Chacham, so I'm going to try to repeat it as well as I can, and then I'll give you also the Rich Roberts Torah view on it. These Ravaria Kaplan said that there were 7 worlds separated by the firmaments, and Ravaria Kaplan says that the Zohar says that those are 7 locations of intelligent life, 7 different locations or planets or whatever, worlds of intelligent life. So even though others have different interpretations of it, that's what I was told. From my perspective, this is my simple perspective. We believe that all knowledge is in the Torah. That doesn't mean that there's anybody alive today that has all of that knowledge. If I've been asked by both religious Jews and religious Christians, if these UFOs, if these aliens are real, what does that mean? I said, I don't even see what the challenge is. So if they're real, which I'm almost certain they are, so Hashem, God made them also. What's the big deal? Do I think you think I know everything that God has done? Not even an infinitesimal amount do I know. So if they're real, if they exist, then Hashem made them. Period. End of story. What's the big deal?
No, it's in there. I'm not saying it can't be overcome, but I heard this question being asked. This goes back years ago before we became more sophisticated, and there's more of a belief today in UFOs than there was maybe 30 years ago. You had to be on the fringe of society to believe that. Today it could be more mainstream, and I think just a matter of time before some of these things get into the media.
Oh, let's go back. Let's go back. Believing that intelligent alien beings are visiting here is mainstream thought now. The majority of Americans believe it. Congress, like I said, is hot on the trail, and there's funny stuff that goes on. The Senate had a bill in the bill to fund the military. It goes back, I think, a year or 2 years ago, requiring the military to reveal all their information about alien craft and alien beings, to reveal that within 6 months. And before the bill got passed, a little line got added at the end which said, unless such revelation will compromise national security. So the bill had no power at all. But no, the Congress and Senate are hot on the trail. Congressman Tim Burchett is big on this. Congressman or Congresswoman Luna, many others. I'll tell you something. I had Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House at my home here, I don't know, maybe 3 months ago. And we had him here with a group of like 40 or 50 people, local politicians, and the rest were Orthodox Jews in my home. And mostly question and answer. So I asked him a question in front of the group. I know I had to word this carefully. First, I've told everybody what a SCIF is. A SCIF is a secure underground location where the most top secret information can be discussed. It's something that cannot be penetrated by any of our enemies trying to perform surveillance on us. So I said 17 congressmen went into a SCIF that was organized by the Pentagon to be given the information about UFOs. And when they came out, no one said anything except Tim Burchett said nothing he heard contradicted what David Grush testified to before Congress. David Grush is the one who says that we have over a dozen alien craft in our possession. So I said to Congress, to the Speaker, I said, so what is said to these politicians? What are they threatened with that causes them to say nothing whatsoever about what was revealed there? And Mike Johnson actually didn't answer that question. He answered a different question. He said, I was in that SCIF, and there was nothing there that was told to us that indicates to me that there is alien life that's coming here and visiting our world. And he said, anyway, it's not to be found in the New Testament or the Old Testament, so it can't be true. And that was the end of that discussion, except I said, so if there is no UFO alien life coming down here, then why did it have to be in a SCIF?
Right. Why all the secrecy? What are they afraid of? That's what concerns them. Why are they afraid to let the American people know what the information that they have?
Yes. So I can surmise a half a dozen possible explanations, but obviously I don't know. I would think that we're trying to as a matter of fact, the testimony before Congress is that we are trying to reverse engineer this technology. So maybe we don't want to let it. We don't want to let it be known that we're trying to reverse engineer this technology, because these alien craft, they move with no sign of propulsion. There's no smoke. There's no heat coming out of the back. Everything else we had, shoot something out of the back, like Newton's second law of motion, to push themselves forward. They move with no means of propulsion that we can see. They also don't have flight control surfaces. There are no wings. There's nothing to control the direction of their flight. They also move in ways that the inertia, for the force from the force that they generate would 1/10 of that would tear apart anything known to mankind. So these things are clearly very, very real.
If we had them in our possession, it would stand to reason that some of these UFOs may have come into possession of Russia or China or other countries around the world, because they just don't necessarily congregate in one area. So, but it would certainly placate people who feel more comfortable knowing what's going on. I know they don't want to create a panic, but if indeed it's true that, and what seems to indicate that it is, it's just amazing how they're able to cover up for this for so many years.
Yes, so I have two responses on that. One is many countries in the world do have programs looking into this. Nick Pope was the head of the UFO program for the British military. He's coming out and confirming all of this now. Brazil has a program. Mexican fighter jets pilots have taken videos of these objects. Russia and China have programs. So it is going on all around. And sorry, but I forget the second point that I was going to make.
No, I'm just thinking out loud. Maybe they're afraid that some of our elected officials, they discovered are aliens.
Yeah, right.
Maybe that's why they gummed up after those meetings. But sir, there's a lot more to be written about. What kind of reaction did you get to your pieces when you wrote about these drone issues?
Well, the drone issue, I got a lot of people, were thinking that I'm nuts or whatever. But I think that's because they didn't read actually what I wrote, or they just saw the headline, which misrepresented what I wrote. So I don't think these things are UAPs or UFOs. I think these are man-made, and I don't know where they come from. I'm just saying that being UFOs would fit the story. But by the way, where there have been these huge drones, the early reports before it started to go crazy with so many people reporting, everything they see in the sky. Some of the reports were saying that they hear, the humming going on. Well, UFOs don't make any sound. They actually break the sound barrier without making any sound. So, which means that probably some sort of transmedia. They're not clearly in our media. They also go from outer space to our atmosphere, into water, and out again. It's just not. They're not interacting with our world. I have a YouTube video on this. I give an example of neutrinos. Neutrinos are particles that can go back and forth through the Earth, back and forth. I forget the number, like 50 times, and never touch anything. So I don't know what the technology is, obviously, but anyway, these things, it's very real. It's very real.
Thank you for watching. If you like this content, you like our programs, please like and subscribe, as it helps the channel, gets these important conversations out there to a larger audience. So please become a supporter of Talk Line with Zev Brenner by liking us, by supporting us, and telling all your friends to watch. Thank you.